8 levels of consciousness, the hidden map of the mind in Buddhism, the invisible map of the mind. In the Yogācāra teachings, the Buddha pointed out that what people usually call mind is not merely fleeting streams of thoughts, nor simply passing emotions of joy and sorrow. The mind is a complex and profound system of operations, analyzed into 8 levels of consciousness. If the mind is likened to an ocean, then thoughts and emotions are only the surface waves. Beneath those waves are hidden currents, silently governing the entire flow of life. The map of the 8 consciousnesses is the key to seeing both the surface and the depths of this ocean. Remarkably, this map is not only a metaphysical explanation of the inner world, but also a reflection of psychological reality. Today, modern science and psychology are beginning to discover that much of human behavior is governed by the deep layers of the unconscious. What neuroscientists and psychologists have only reached after centuries of study, the Buddha already revealed more than 2,500 years ago. To understand the 8 consciousnesses is to obtain a tool of contemplation, to see why thoughts arise as they do, why karma operates in its manner, and most importantly, how we can transform this stream of mind. The first 5, the sense consciousnesses, gateways to the inner world. The first 5 consciousnesses are visual, auditory, olfactory, gustatory, and tactile consciousness. These correspond to the 5 senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. Their function is to make contact with the external world, receiving the objects of form, sound, scent, taste, and touch. However, they remain at the level of pure perception, without judgment or discrimination. The essential characteristic of these 5 is their neutrality. They do not assign good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. Thus, sensory objects themselves carry no fixed value. What we call beautiful or ugly, pleasing or disturbing, is the work of the higher layers of consciousness, especially the 6th, the mind consciousness. In practice, contemplating the 5 sense consciousnesses helps us return to the pristine reality of phenomena, only seeing as seeing, only hearing as hearing. In this way, we step away from the habitual additions and interpretations and learn to dwell in mindfulness. The 6th consciousness, amalavijñāna, the level of discernment and creativity. The 6th consciousness is amalavijñāna, or the mind consciousness. This is where human beings most clearly experience their mental life, for it is the flow of thought, imagination, memory, and analysis. It has 2 aspects. On one hand, it is the tool of creation, providing the basis for language, science, art, and all higher intellectual activity. On the other hand, it is also the machine of delusion, constantly recalling the past, worrying about the future, weaving thousands of thought patterns that scatter the mind. According to Yogācāra, the mind consciousness arises from 2 sources: the data of the 5 senses and the seeds, bija, stored in the ālaya-vijñāna. This means that thoughts do not arise randomly, but from the interplay of external conditions and internal seeds. The practice with the 6th consciousness is not to eradicate thinking, but to see thoughts as thoughts, without identification. When we recognize that a thought is just a thought, not the self, we gradually create space within the mind. Thus, the 6th consciousness, instead of being the root of affliction, becomes the instrument to plant wholesome seeds into the storehouse consciousness. The 7th consciousness, manas, the shadow of self-clinging. Behind the 6th lies the 7th consciousness, manas. This level is unique because it constantly maintains a subtle grasping. It takes the ālaya-vijñāna as self, as I, and mine. Manas has 4 characteristics: self-delusion, atma, moha, ignorance of the truth of non-self, self-view, atma drishti, mistaking the storehouse as a real permanent self, self-love, atma sneha, attachment to and defense of the ego, self-conceit, atma mana, comparison and measuring oneself against others. Thus, manas is the root of ego clinging. It does not directly create discursive thoughts like the 6th consciousness, but it colors all thoughts with the stain of self. From this arise greed, anger, jealousy, and fear, all born from the ego's need to be affirmed or protected. In practice, recognizing manas is essential. Through the contemplation of non-self, practitioners see that what we call I is merely a composite of the 5 aggregates, without a permanent entity. When ego clinging dissolves, manas is transformed into the wisdom of equality, perceiving all beings as equal, without discrimination of self and other. The 8th consciousness, ālaya-vijñāna, the storehouse of karmic seeds. The 8th consciousness is ālaya-vijñāna, the deepest foundation of the mind. It is the repository of all karmic seeds, the imprints of every thought, word, and action accumulated over countless lifetimes. Ālaya neither discriminates nor judges. Its sole function is to store and maintain wholesome and unwholesome seeds alike. When conditions ripen, manifest into activity, becoming present experiences. These, in turn, sow new seeds back into the storehouse, enriching it further. This is the continuous cycle of seed to manifestation to seed, an unending process. The essential characteristic of ālaya is its dependent arising nature. It is not an eternal self, nor an immortal soul. It is but a continuous stream of energy, sustaining life and carrying karmic momentum from one existence to the next. Thus, ālaya is the very basis of samsaric rebirth. When a lifetime ends and the body disintegrates, the storehouse does not perish. It continues as the foundation for another life. Yet ālaya is not immutable. Through cultivation, the current of the storehouse can be transformed. When unwholesome seeds are no longer nourished, they gradually lose strength. When wholesome seeds are nurtured, they gradually flourish. Ultimately, when wisdom is perfected, ālaya itself is transformed into the great mirror wisdom, Mahādarshā-jñāna. Luminous, pristine, reflecting all phenomena exactly as they are. The 9th consciousness, amalavijñāna, the pure consciousness. Within the system of 8 consciousnesses, ālaya is the deepest stratum. Yet some Mahayana treatises speak of a consciousness beyond ālaya, called amalavijñāna, the pure or immaculate consciousness. The meaning of amalavijñāna, amala in Sanskrit means undefiled, pure. Thus, the pure consciousness is regarded as the pristine nature of mind, unstained by delusion, untouched by karmic influence. It is no longer the storehouse of seeds, but the very essence of enlightenment, the absolute ground of mind. While ālaya is still a flow subject to arising and ceasing, still bound by contamination, amalavijñāna is unborn and undying, the suchness, tathata, of mind. It is uncreated, unchanging, eternally radiant. The difference between ālaya and amala: ālaya retains wholesome and unwholesome seeds, perpetuates samsaric existence. It remains obscured when clung to by manas, but can be transformed into wisdom through awakening. Amala transcends all defiled seeds. It contains no karma, is unbound by dependent arising. It is the immaculate ground of mind, corresponding to the realization of nirvana. Thus, one may say, ālaya is the foundation of the conditioned, saskrita, while amala is the essence of the unconditioned, asaskrita. Roll in the path of awakening. On the path, practitioners begin by contemplating the 5 sense consciousnesses, disciplining the 6th, manovijñāna, transforming the 7th, manas, and purifying the 8th, ālaya. When this cultivation is complete, the storehouse is utterly cleansed and all seeds of delusion are extinguished. At that moment, the inherent luminous ground, amalavijñāna, naturally reveals itself. This shows that the pure consciousness is not produced by practice. It has always been present within every being. Practice is merely the process of returning to that original nature. Symbolic meaning: amalavijñāna represents the truth that the essence of mind is fundamentally pure. Ignorance, delusion, and karmic force are but temporary veils. When the clouds disperse, the clear sky reveals itself. This is why Mahayana scriptures declare, mind is originally Buddha. It is only through delusion that distinctions arise. In the framework of transforming consciousness into wisdom, the pure consciousness is the basis of the wisdom of the Dharmadhatu. Dharmadhatu Prakriti Jnana, the wisdom that directly realizes the entire Dharma realm as one, beyond all dualistic discrimination. Practical significance: to recognize the presence of amalavijñāna is to never despair when confronted with delusion. Even though ālaya may still contain many defiled seeds, there remains a stratum of immaculate purity as the ground. The existence of this pure layer is the profound assurance that awakening is real and liberation is attainable. Application: transforming the 8 consciousnesses in daily life. The doctrine of the 8 consciousnesses is not merely theoretical. It is a means for contemplation and transformation. The aim of the Dharma is the path of liberation. By understanding the 8 consciousnesses, a practitioner can observe each stratum of mind, see its modes of operation, and thereby find the proper method of cultivation. 1. Contemplating the 5 sense consciousnesses, dwelling in mindfulness. The 5 sense consciousnesses are inherently neutral, yet upon contact with objects they become gateways through which the 6th consciousness and manas enter, creating discrimination and attachment. The practice here is to return to pure awareness, seeing only as seeing, hearing only as hearing. This is precisely the cultivation of mindfulness of body and feeling in the Satipatthana Sutta, helping practitioners abide in the present without being carried away by external conditions. 2. Regulating the 6th consciousness, turning delusion into wisdom. The 6th consciousness is the source of creativity, yet also the endless stream of discursive thought. The essential method is mindful awareness, knowing clearly when a thought arises, neither pursuing nor suppressing it. Once recognized, delusive thoughts gradually lose their force. When the 6th consciousness is calmed, it becomes a tool to nurture wholesome seeds, planting pure imprints into the storehouse consciousness. 3. Contemplating manas, dissolving ego clinging. Manas is the seat of self-attachment. The fundamental practice is the contemplation of non-self, seeing that what we call I is but a composite of the 5 aggregates. When the wisdom of non-self manifests, manas is transformed into the wisdom of equality, perceiving all dharmas as equal, free from the dualities of self and other, superior and inferior. This is a profound step into non-discriminating compassion. 4. Purifying alaya, planting wholesome seeds, transforming karma. The storehouse consciousness is where all seeds are contained. Practice here means selecting and nurturing, refraining from watering unwholesome seeds while fostering wholesome ones through morality, shila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom prajna. With perseverance, the stream of alaya gradually becomes purified. This is the process of transforming consciousness into wisdom so emphasized in Yogācāra. 5. Realizing amala, returning to the immaculate mind. When alaya is completely purified, amalavijñāna, the pure consciousness, is revealed. This is the state of undefiled mind, unborn and undying, the very ground of nirvana. It is not a distant realm, but the innate pure nature already present, merely obscured by ignorance. The ultimate practice is to disperse these clouds of delusion so that the luminous essence may shine forth. Transformation into the 4 wisdoms. In Mahayana teaching, the 8 consciousnesses, once transformed, become the 4 wisdoms. The 5 sense consciousnesses become the wisdom of accomplishing activities, kritink yuana stana jnana, wisdom in skillful and beneficial action. The 6th consciousness becomes the wisdom of wonderful observation, pratyavekshana jnana, discriminating wisdom, free of delusion. Manas becomes the wisdom of equality, samatā jnana, perceiving all beings as equal. Alaya becomes the great mirror wisdom, mahadarsha jnana, like a vast mirror reflecting all phenomena as they are. When these 4 wisdoms manifest, the practitioner attains enlightenment, liberated from the cycle of birth and death. The 3 pillars of practice. In summary, the application of the 8 consciousnesses in daily life may be distilled into 3 pillars. Morality, shila, preventing the planting of unwholesome seeds. Concentration, samadhi, stabilizing the mind, free from domination by discursive thought. Wisdom, prajna, contemplating non-self and dependent, arising, transforming manas and alaya. This is precisely the path shown by the Buddha, transforming delusion into awakening, transforming consciousness into wisdom, until the inherently pure mind is revealed. Conclusion. The 8 consciousnesses are not merely a philosophical analysis, but a map of liberation. From the 5 sense consciousnesses to the 6 manas, alaya, and finally amala, one can discern the entire progression of the mind, from sensory contact to discrimination to ego clinging to karmic accumulation and ultimately to perfect wisdom. The essential point is, the 8 consciousnesses are not fixed. They function according to dependent, arising, and thus can be altered and transformed. This possibility of transformation is what gives meaning to practice. Without it, the 8 consciousnesses would be only an endless cycle of samsara. Illuminated by morality, concentration, and wisdom, however, they become the very path leading the practitioner back to the pure essence of mind. The 5 senses, when guided by mindfulness, become the basis for awakened activity. The 6th, when disciplined, becomes subtle and insightful observation. Manas, once freed from ego, becomes wisdom of equality. Alaya, once purified, becomes the great mirror of reality. And beyond them all, the pure consciousness shines forth like the clear sky revealed when clouds disperse. This return is the very journey of every practitioner, from delusion to awakening, from ordinary to noble, from false to true. Through the 8 consciousnesses, we see both bondage and release, both the seeds of suffering and the path to liberation. To understand them deeply is to no longer be swept away by the currents of ignorance, but to stand firmly upon the ground of wisdom. From there, one walks through life with inner strength, vast openness, and serene clarity, knowing that within oneself, the mind is already Buddha.